Welcome to the channel, everyone. So today I got to finish up the 427. Last time we left off, had a few parts that still needed to go on this thing, and I believe I got everything I need. I've got a rebuilt, this is a factory rebuilt Edelbrock 750 carb to 1407. So that's factory rebuilt. Should run good, shouldn't have any problems, I hope. I grabbed some ARP carburetor studs to get that bolted on there. I don't know if I remember showing you or not the chrome alternator. That's a Proform chrome alternator, 100 amp. It's an upgrade from what it had back in the day. Also had to extend this tightener. You can see I actually welded a nut on there and extended the tightener so it would pull the alternator farther, because I was having a trouble where it was getting too close to this bracket. Again, this bracket wasn't made for a tall deck big block, so that's kind of why I had to do that. But it seems to be working good. I found a belt there. We had one that works, looks like, so we're good there. I've got to get a starter on this thing. I went with a Speedmaster. I think this is a high torque mini starter. I'll show you once I get it out of the box. It actually comes with studs instead of bolts, so I don't know if that's going to make it easier or harder to install that. But and then I've got headers, which are in that box, and I'll show you once I get them out. I got a distributor here. This is again from Assault Racing. I'll link what I can. You see it's much smaller than the HEI that was there. Should work out really good. I've got to do plug wires. Spark plugs got to go in. Before I can do the starter, I've got to torque my balancer bolt. Remember, I didn't do that. Okay, so after getting all the pulleys and everything on the front of the motor torqued down, I did notice an issue here. If you run a straight edge across the crank pulley, the water pump and the alternator are not quite in line. And actually, if you step back, you can see that the crank pulley is out a little further, probably a 1/16 of an inch. Now, I don't think that's going to make a difference on the run stand here. But if I ever put this in something to actually run it on the street, probably going to want to line that to get that straight. I know they have spacers for the front of the water pump where you can space out the water pump pulley. So that's probably not a problem. The problem comes with the alternator. That means if I space the water pump out, the alternator, I got to put like washers and spacers on every one of the mounts to get the alternator to come out. But I did have to mess with Dad's Camaro. Stuff didn't quite line up, and I did have to make a few spacers to line everything up. So it is what it is, and you got to do that sometimes. Okay, so my first attempt to get the starter installed failed because I'm actually hitting the oil pan right there. So I'm gonna have to notch this out a little bit. I see they have clearance here, but apparently not enough. So I'll have to make some more. I don't really like those studs that they supply with the kit, so I may end up using regular bolts or something. Okay, so I ground a little bit off the starter there, installed it. Not real happy with these studs. I think if I had to do it over again, I would have ordered some ARP starter bolts. I guess I just kind of assumed that a starter would come with new bolts, but I do not like them studs at all. But starter looks good. Looks like it's where it's supposed to be. The starter comes with a spacer here to get it, I think it's to get it away, to push it farther away from the, but it looks good where it's at. And then also you've got the shims. You won't know if you need the shims until I hit the starter, and if it makes a terrible noise, I'll have to shim it. But right now, it looks good. I'll maybe adjust it later on. Okay guys, so now I'm gonna put the headers on this thing. These are basically the cheapest header I could find for a big block Chevy. It's just a standard long tube. It's painted black. They say this paint won't last. It'll burn right off. Probably just it'll stay with the engine stand, and if I ever put another big block on it, I'll use these. So like I said, just the cheapest header I could find. And then if you plugged your exhaust ports, make sure you take these out, or when you fire it up, you're gonna have a nasty surprise. I also cleaned the bolt holes where these go in. I run my tap through them. That's gonna help you out if you do something like that. And then of course there's you got gaskets here, something like that. These don't seem to line up very well. I'll figure it out here. There we go. Them header gaskets are horrible. Usually you start your two end bolts, then you drop your gasket in. This thing is horrible. Well, having a little bit of a clearance issue with these headers. You can see the head bolts are actually coming in contact with the header there, so I'm going to have to grind it down. I think I'll grind each one of these humps down a little bit to give me a little room, but I guess that's what happens when you go cheap. Well, it's starting to look like an engine. So now that I got my headers on there, I got to get my spark plugs in. And then I got some Moroso wires. These are universal. 90 degree ends. I hope that's going to work out. But the only way to make these look nice is you gotta make them yourself. You gotta cut them to length. Otherwise, the universal stuff usually doesn't look very good. I've got some really neat wire separators that I'm going to show you that I found. And here these are. They're, I guess, Spectra. I think that's how you say it. I'll link them. It's pretty neat. They're like super adjustable. You can see this thing slides out. And actually, it looks like you could take the 4 one off, and you could actually use this for a V6, looks like. They're really, really adjustable. All kinds of adjustability built into them. So they are not like perfect. The chrome isn't like perfect, but most of this, the wires are going to be over that. You ain't going to see it. This one here even had a little bit of bubbling going on. But for what you pay for them, it ain't bad, especially with how universal they are. Once they get bad, get a new set. Your mounts are all adjustable. They slide. So yeah, this thing is very, very universal. But yeah, this is what I'm going to throw on there. I got to get them adjusted to how I want them. Get my wires in there and get them made up. And we'll be pretty close to being able to fire this engine up once I get my run stand finished. Okay, so I just spent a little time getting my wire separators installed. These things I think could go on a small block, big block, Ford, just about anything looks like. Very adjustable, like I said before, and actually I bent them up a little bit. These brackets bend pretty easy. I kind of had to bend it up for this wire to clear my dipstick and stuff like that, but they look like they're going to really separate the wires out nice. So now I know where they're going. I can start making them. Problem is, I got 90 degree boots and 90 degree boots on the other end, and it looks like I probably need a 45. You could probably do a straight, but a 45 I think is what would work out perfect. So I gotta see if I can find some 90s for the distributor, and then I need 45s or straights for the plugs. I didn't know that. These big blocks are a little different than the small blocks, but I do like that there's all kinds of room to get the spark plugs in and tighten them down with a wrench. That's really nice. There's more room because it's a big block, but yeah, I wish I would have known that. Now I gotta find more parts. This is the way it goes, guys. You think you got something figured out, it don't fit. You got to modify it or change parts, and that's just the way it goes. Okay, guys, so finally I have got some plug wires on this thing. And after this is the third set now. Finally happy. Them are 45 degree boots. These are Moroso, and these were actually already made wires. I didn't have to make these, and they actually are very, very clean. This side might be a tad too long, but when they're already done for you, that saves a huge amount of time. These are designed to go what they call under the cover. Most of them, they say over the cover, and then you run your wires over the cover and stuff like that. I think that is so messy looking. And honestly, if you got a race car or something, just, you know, run them over the cover, whatever. But I wanted it really clean, like I did with Dad's car. I wanted it really clean. So that is done. Oh, I did have to enlarge on these wire separators. It's more light over here. I did have to enlarge the holes because these, I ain't got them tight yet. These are made for, I think, up to 8 millimeter, and these are 8.64 millimeters. So I had to take these plastic things off. I drilled them out with a bigger drill bit, and then I took my Dremel because I didn't have the right size, and I just run the Dremel and opened them up a bit. These are they're Ultra 40. And like I said, I will try to link everything. I tried to use these Excel Super Stock. These are straight. And the straight would have worked for most of the plugs. But there was 2 of them, I think, they were laying on the header. I think this is one of them. It was like the wire would have been like laying on top of that header. And I just didn't like that. So I come up with these, finally. I've got my plugs in. I found this little plug here. I'm just going to plug this one off. I believe this is supposed to go to the heater core of the vehicle. And then one of these ports is supposed to be, I think, a return from the heater core. This one here, I believe it's supposed to go to the center one. I couldn't really get I needed a 45, couldn't find a 45 3/4. So I ended up finding a 90. I put it over here. This still is not working out. It doesn't matter though. This is just on a run stand. If I ever put this in a vehicle, I'll figure out something. It's kinking right here. I'll figure something out, something different for the heater core. But for the run stand, it's gonna work fine. I just gotta get some clamps. I got some stainless clamps that weren't big enough. So I'll probably have to run to the store to find some stainless ones. Back to the wires here. I put this thing at top dead center. You see me do that. I stuck my finger over the hole and found top dead center. This is going to be my number 1. So I dropped the distributor in there. The rotor right now is pointing right here. Number 1. This is my number 1. So that's how I put the wires on. You know, you got to go your firing order all the way around. This is, like I said, a pretty clean setup. They got them pretty good. Eventually, it does get a little messy here with the wires. There's no way around that. It would be nice if these went straight. These 4 went this way and these 4 went that way. That's just not the way it works. So it does get a little messy in the back there. No way around that. Yeah, but I'm real happy with those wires. They're nice. They're labeled with these little labels and everything. So really nice. Oh, they sent a coil wire. I've got to make that up. I got to make one end up. But I got to get my coil out. And I got to figure out where that's going. And then I'll make it up. Fuel line. This fuel line, this is the in. I'm just going to drop that into my tank on the run stand. This is the fuel line out. I believe that's 3/8. I'll probably just get some copper nickel hard line and I'll run it up behind the alternator here, and I'll bring it to about here, and then I'll run a rubber line with a filter onto the carburetor right here. That's pretty much a wrap here, guys. I got one more thing that's really cool and I'm going to show you. Okay, so the final piece on this motor, you can see it's they call this like the double barrel intake or whatever. This is polished aluminum, and this is a cheaper one. This is actually from Assault Racing again. I'll link it. Very reasonable price. Probably not, you know, top quality, but I think it looks pretty darn good. So you get the double barrel intake. This is not put together. You got to put all this together. You got to put the little screws in. They give you all this. They give you the shaft. They give you this bracket here. They give you a few bolts. They also give you air filters. They give you adapters. This is one adapter. They give you two adapters because normally they give you two carb adapters because normally you use this on an intake with dual carbs. I saw this on a vehicle with the single carb. I thought it looked just as good as one with dual carbs, so I grabbed it. Again, you got a second carb here because you usually run two carbs. I'm only going to need one. They give you bolts here to bolt this onto the adapter because you put this onto the carburetor first. I'll show you in a second here. And then they also give you, a few nuts and bolts and everything to do this. Let me flip this over. I'll show you the underside. Okay, so here's the underside of this thing, and you can see they send two of these plates here, and I believe this is to run this on a single carb setup. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm using it for. Just covering most of it. There is a little gap on one side, but that'll let water out or whatever if it gets in there. But normally, if you got two carburetors, you will bolt these. You'll bolt probably one up here and then one down there. This slides. It's got adjustment. So yeah, it comes with just about everything except for linkage to control this. I'll show you what I come up with on that. But let me get my air cleaner installed. I'll show you what it looks like with that. Okay, so this is what you put on your carburetor first. If you had two of them, you'd put two of these on. You got your air filter and the little hat thing. I added this washer because I was having trouble with it twisting on me. You wouldn't have that trouble if you run dual carbs, but with this single carb, I was having trouble with it twisting, so I added a washer so I could tighten this down a little harder and not deform the top so much. So just to add some thickness, but that's all you do there. And then you take the other piece, I'm going to drop it on. You run your bolts up through here and you bolt it on, and that's what I'm going to do in a second here. Okay, so there it is, installed. I like it. I think it looks good. It'll give me an air cleaner anyway while I run it. So the next thing I got to figure out is linkage here to run this with the throttle. So I've got an idea. I got a few parts. I guess you could run this without that if you just wanted the scoop or whatever. This is just kind of neat when you can see the throttle working. I don't know. It's just, I just think it's neat. This shaft is just sitting in there. There's no like bushing or anything, and it does move a little bit back and forth. So I'm not sure about that, but I don't know. We'll see. Now I got to get some linkage. Like I said, they send some bolts. They send a few bolts here, so I'll use try to use them or whatever to make my linkage. Okay, so here's what I've come up with. I found these little Heim joints. They are Mr. Gasket for throttle linkage or something. I made this piece, this rod. This is made, these little Heim joints are made for a 1/4 inch rod. It is fine thread. I don't know if there's coarse thread or fine thread rod. There probably is, but this is, you need fine thread. But anyway, I just actually took 2 bolts, cut the heads off, welded the rod, kind of measured here. I'm going to put one heim joint on this side, one heim joint on the carburetor side. Once I get it installed here, I'll show you what I've got. Okay, so there's my linkage on here. I've got some jam nuts. Not sure why, because it can't spin or nothing, but they come with little heim joints. But anyway, when you move the throttle, so I'm sure there's probably a way to adjust this. I'm not really sure. I just kind of played with it, and I've got it so I can open the throttle all the way. You can see this will restrict the throttle because it'll only go straight that way. So that will restrict the throttle. So there's probably someone watching that knows exactly how to adjust these, but this is my first one I've ever had, so I don't know. That's probably enough air going in there. I don't see it. I don't know if they're supposed to be flat or not, but anyway, this is what I've got. This will work on the engine stand until I figure out how it goes or whatever, but I just thought that was a quick way to get this thing functional. But yeah, I like it, guys. Yeah, other than a few things like a gas line and some clamps, top it off with oil. She's ready to run. So, got to get my run stand finished up. I got all the parts for that. That'll probably be the next video. So, I guess stay tuned for that, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you.